Everything has two sides. So, unfortunate side is we lost the country. Fortunate side is Dharma went all over the world.
To a certain degree, maybe we were just too comfortable up there in the mountains, in the land of snows, and doing your own little thing over there. To be sort of shaken out of that state, to investigate furthermore something is good for the Tibetans also.
Anyone would have mentioned Buddhism 10 years ago, I'm like, okay, whatever, you know, let's go party.
When I started reading about it, I thought it was really depressing. It was like suffering and the cause of suffering. And so I thought, no, I don't think I'm interested in Buddhism.
It seems a little odd that a tradition that's been hibernating in the Himalayas could be so relevant to a modern Western lifestyle, but fundamentally it is.
Well, because they're dealing with the same exact issues. You know? Why am I so sad?
However, the civilizations over the last 2,500 years have changed. The human emotions and human neurosis, in essence, has not changed.
The Buddha asked all these questions, like the Buddha's main question was, you know, how do you find happiness in this? Old age, sickness, death, you know, uncertainty, suffering.
When I was about, I guess, 17, I ran away from home, and I pretty much was a street kid for about 4 years. I was kind of desert, or just totally alone and going through like really hard times, you know, there on the side of the road just getting rained on, you know. Probably then was probably like the first time I actually thought about anything about, you know, how I am as a person, how I relate to other people, how can I help other people, and how we're interconnected and all that stuff. You know, you see people, they got all this stuff, and it's like, well, shoot, I ain't got nothing. I'm pretty well fine, you know. I mean, like, what's up with that? So that kind of made me question some things.
I don't even think being a nun is the best thing for everyone. It's just, for me individually, it's just very helpful. My greatest obstacle? First, understanding Tibetan culture. That was really difficult. And being a woman has been very difficult. Yeah, at the Institute of Buddhist Dialectics, in my class, I was the only woman. So I was very, very lonely sometimes, extremely lonely.
When I was first locked up in that county jail, literally when the cell door slammed shut, it was like just a kind of a total awakening to all the denial I'd been in about so much of my life, and how I'd let my teacher down and my family and the community and so forth. And so I just became, you know, driven to radically change everything.
It doesn't matter what role you play, what condition you're in, because conditions are very unreliable. Sometimes the universe is smiling upon us, and sometimes it changes. That whole world is learning that there's no certainty, there's no security.
A cascade of selling swept over the markets. By just after 3 o'clock, investors were just dumping shares.
Everything's happening so fast, it's unbelievable.
The illusion of control that we've had in modern Western culture is largely disintegrating. And the experience of reality we have now, where you don't know what's going to happen next.
Unbelievable display of Mother Nature. It was frightening. It was also awe-inspiring and otherworldly.
Other cultures have that. I mean, that's just the way it's been throughout all of human history. And that does open the spiritual gate.
To imagine Buddhism taking root in the culture of the 1950s or even early 1960s, impossible. There was just this monolithic American culture. It was unquestionable, it was successful, it was unchallenged.
We were part of a generation of people who basically said, I want out. That impulse was certainly selfish. It wasn't, I want to save the world. It was, I want this suffering to stop inside of me.
India was kind of flavor of the month. The Beatles had just been, and everyone wanted to go to India. And, you know, Baba Ram Dass and Timothy Leary and these people had to popularize this whole idea of Eastern spirituality.
I was not going to India for tourism. I was really looking for something. I really was fed up with Western culture. I said, I really need something new.
And I heard about these buses that you could get on and go from England to Nepal, drive through all these countries that, you know, you think about driving through now, like Iraq and Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan.
I had absolutely no idea about Hinduism, nor Buddhism, or nothing really. And then on the way, I met one American, and he had been already with the Tibetan lamas in Nepal. And he was talking to me a lot about Kathmandu and Nepal and all the Tibetans and the Tibetans and the Tibetans.
High in the Himalayas, Tibet's religious tradition is personified by the Dalai Lama. These are films of the Dalai Lama taken in less troubled times. News now reaches the world that 20,000 Tibetans have risen with him against their Chinese overlords.
2 days after the Lhasa uprising, the Dalai Lama escaped from his palace. The Dalai Lama's escape sparked an exodus of refugees as tens of thousands of Tibetans followed him into exile.
In 1959, he came from Tibet. Sometimes we came to Snow Mountain, day and night, on horses. Sometimes caught by Chinese army, and put us in the short period prison. Actually, this cultural revolution, destruction of Tibet, actually proved for us the really value of Buddha's teaching.
When I first arrived in Dharamsala, I struggled up the hill with my rucksack. I came to a large rock on which were written the letters Om Mani Padme Hum, but I didn't know what they were.
Dharamsala in those days was really just flattened tin cans and little shops. It was really the Tibetans that got me. The main thing was just the warmth of the people, that feeling of joy, and I could not figure it out because most of them had lost everything. Some of them had seen their own families killed in front of them.
They're working on roads. That was what I found amazing about Tibetans, is this ability to adjust from being a prince or a nobleman to having nothing. We found that all of our preconceptions, the things we had been trained as children, as to what was proper, what was desirable, were not desirable.
When I went first time to Nepal, and first time I met the Dharma, that was in Kopan Hill. There was a Lama teaching, and this Lama was Lama Thupten Yeshe, and he would teach in English.
Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa first taught Westerners in '71. And it just started to blossom, these Westerners climbing up the hill over rice paddies to get up there. We had a month of teachings and then contemplating on these teachings.
Although, since you're born, up to now, you said, my mind is dead, my mind is dead. You have no idea what is your mind. Isn't that silly? Every day using my mind, that blah, 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 blah. But you don't know what is your nature of your mind.
And that was a shock for me, because I had never thought that you could have wisdom, like without thinking. And I was sick of thinking. I mean, I was completely sick of my thoughts and my mental state, and I was looking for some breakthrough.
I mean, I think that one of the big realizations for me during that month was, yes, the mind does have the capacity to change.
We'd read quite a few books about Tibet. Tibet was somewhere that was very kind of remote. But then kind of news got around amongst people that there was going to be a Lama that was going to turn up in Kensington. To have a Lama turn up was quite extraordinary, because we never imagined that would happen.